Hello, I'm Renata with Renata's Garden, and welcome back to the second part of this Unearth Horticulture episode about houseplant care and what's going on in my houseplant collection these days. I hope that you saw last week's episode, part 1. If you didn't, I put the link in the description below, so check that out. I have some really interesting things to show you today, and as always, if you have questions, let me know. Let's get started. Okay, next plant. This is my Philodendron Red Sun. And the Red Suns are a little bit of a knockoff of the Macaulay Philodendron, but they're really neat, they're really cool. The red color is so deep and beautiful. I have one, so what? Okay, so this is actually a pup off of my larger Red Sun, and I'm going to give you a quick look at that. That Red Sun I got about a year ago, and it is thriving. It was in a 6-inch pot, definitely put on some big leaves in this sunroom. This guy, I will mention, Red Sun and a lot of the philodendron hybrids are patented. They are plant patented, which I believe I discussed this in previous videos, so if you have questions, let me know. I might throw the link to that below if I can find it. Red Suns actually, since they are patented, if you take part in plant swaps or sales, you cannot reproduce and sell this plant legally. There are royalties that are paid in our industry to the breeder who created this plant. So just keep an eye out for that. If you want to split it for your own pleasure or give it to a friend for no monetary gain, you can do that. But just keep your eye out. Don't go around illegally pirating this guy. But super cute, super adorable. I've got a new happy leaf coming, and more on their way. So these don't take very long to grow. A lot of the philodendron hybrids like this grow super quickly. So if you're looking for an unusual colored plant that grows upward kind of on a pole style, definitely look into some of these philodendron hybrids. Next plant is my Cebu Blue Pothos. And as you can see, it's got some leaf spotting damage. And you might think when you see something like this, oh my goodness, this is very scary. It has a disease. I need to take off all these leaves. Are there pests? Like, what's going on with it? And you might have a little mini tiny heart attack. Don't do that with a pothos. Pothos are way too common to have heart attacks over. But let me just tell you something about leaf spotting. It could have multiple causes, and most of the time it's nothing to do with diseases or pests, any kind of pathogen. Actually, it's usually environmental or care related. So in this case, this pothos has dried down too frequently. I put it in a corner that I forgot about, and it just got way too dry for too long. So some of the leaf cells started to dry up and die. Dry down in particular can have different symptoms in different species of plants, but the key is if you start noticing symptoms like leaf spotting, take a step back, take a breather, and think about what your care routine has been like. Because most of the time when there are spots, it is not disease related, it is not pest related, but the two most common things that cause physical damage like this are light levels, and water levels. So take a step back and think, have I let it get too dry in between watering? Do I have it in a good, well-lit location? Is it winter? Is it summer? If it's winter and it's starting to show symptoms maybe a month into winter with shorter days, maybe it's struggling with not enough light in my house. So maybe I need to add a grow light in addition to the window it's sitting in front of. Leaf spotting very commonly is caused by low light levels. So if you have any questions about your plant and your plant's leaf spotting, hit me up. Ask me all the questions. I'm happy to take a look. All right, there are two last plants that I want to talk about. One is more of a success story, and the other one is a struggle story. So because we should always end everything positively with success, I'm going to talk about the struggle first. The struggle is my money tree plant, otherwise known as Picara aquatica. And these are said to bring good luck, but for me, This is my struggle plant. This is the plant that I feel like brings me all the bad luck. I've had this plant for a couple of years and it's thrived and done well, and I recently repotted and moved it into a more southeasterly facing area of the sun porch, and that was a huge mistake. It seems like whatever I put here seems to fail in this corner, and you'd think that I'd find something that really enjoys that bright light and it would thrive. However, this guy has three main issues going on. First things first, you can see some of this leaf tip damage. It's actually physical damage from my cats. There are 4 cats in this house. They are not all mine. I am not a crazy cat lady. I may be a crazy plant lady, but I am not a crazy cat lady. Sometimes they go hand in hand. But anyways, this plant is completely pet safe and friendly. And that doesn't mean that my cats are plant friendly, but I'm just hoping they don't maim it so much that it kills it. I don't think it should. I might just have to deal with a little physical damage while they get tired of it. Sometimes my cats kind of just like, they get tired of it. So that's the first thing going on. The second thing I'm noticing is some white spotting in the centers of the leaves, and that is actually sun scorch. So with money tree, whenever their leaves, their cells die, instead of turning black, they actually turn this white tissue-like color and texture. So that's what you see with the physical damage on the leaves, but also the sun scorching turns the leaves white, especially in the centers. So I know right away that I need to move this plant. The third issue that is a little bit harder to see, but if you have a trained eye, you know it and you dread it. It is 2-spotted spider mite damage. Spider mites are one of those things that I have a feeling there are always populations of them in our plants, in the canopy of the plants, but they don't actually start thriving until they have the right environment. Okay, so first what you need to know about pest control with your houseplants or any plants is that pests have to have an environment to thrive and grow, and the best control method is to put your plant in an area that the pests don't like. So spider mites, they like bright light, heat, dry air. So we already know that my money tree needs to not be in as bright a light, so that's great. So I can move it into a lower light environment. Second, the heat comes from that bright light. So if I move it out of the bright light, hopefully the temperature around the plant and the leaf temperature will lower. And then third, dry air. So money trees actually really like humidity in tropical environments. So adding a humidifier nearby or encouraging humidity by even misting the leaves in the mornings, not at night, might help this guy overcome some of the spider mite populations. However, it's bad enough on this plant. I don't think it's gonna only work to change the environment. So I'm actually going to do a treatment. And the best thing for mites, but also the hardest thing, is horticultural oils, especially for plants that have soft textured leaves. I don't suggest using soaps or alcohols on money tree because they have really fine leaf texture and that can damage the leaves. So oils are the best. Definitely make sure if your plant is outside or in a bright spot, I would suggest moving it just to help with the mites, but also when you use horticultural oils, don't use them in temperatures above 80 degrees or when your plant's in direct sunlight, because those oils are oils and they can conduct heat and actually cause burns on your leaves. So make sure that you spray your plant when it's a cooler temperature and it's not in a bright location. And the only way oils work is if you coat the leaves, because the way they work is they suffocate the pest. They coat the leaves and prevent their eggs and larvae and adult forms from thriving. Let's put it that way. So neem oil or paraffin oil are both things that work, and do those applications every week, 1 to 2 times a week. Spider mites, what makes them so nasty is that they actually reproduce every 4 days when they get going. So that's what makes them struggle to get ahead of. So there may come a time when you're just like, oh, I love this plant, but my other plants are more important to me, and I am just tired of spraying neem oil and smelling like horticultural oils. So you might just want to chuck it. It's a sad day, but it's a practical decision. So you can tell why that plant is my struggle plant. One thing I will also mention, many of you like using systemic granules. I love using systemic granules, insecticide, on your houseplants. It's an effective way to help deal with pests like mealybugs, aphids, scale. However, they're not very effective against mites. And if you look at the bottle label, usually they list out what pests they're effective against. And just keep in mind when you use a systemic insecticide that might make your plants unsafe for pets to munch on, number one. Number two, you cannot use it on edible plants. So they're not good for you to munch on either. So just keep track of what you're applying those granules to so that you don't get into problems. I told you I was going to end with a success story. Well, here it is. This is my Rhaphidophora decursiva, also known as Dragontail plant, and many of you bought this guy on the bus from me. It is a climber, as you can see, and I've had this planted since December in my sunroom. It came in a 6-inch pot, and you can see it's put on quite a bit of growth, and it is starting to really start fenestrating, which means to split the leaves. And usually, like in Swiss cheese plant or Monstera, this happens and the splitting continues to grow and grow and grow, and each leaf gets bigger and has more splits. However, what I've noticed with this Dragontail plant is that it's very inconsistent. It might throw one leaf that has some splits in it, and then the next leaf has nothing in it. So I'm going to keep watching this plant. Very unusual. I've got to figure out how to train it downward now, because I can't continue going upward with it. If you have a house and you can use command hooks, that's great. I don't want to do this in that case, because I want to be able to move this guy with me and not leave it here when I move again. But definitely a success story, because it is looking so cool. So I definitely suggest that you grab one of those plants if you ever find one around, if on the plant bus, if you can. Okay. All right, so that is the end of this 2-part Unearth Horticulture episode. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have feedback or comments or questions, drop them below. And as always, I'm Renata with Renata's Garden, and you've been watching Unearth Horticulture.